To be places to use as a home base for 3 or 4 neighbors. So you find it. And you want to use down there. He's going.
Just depends on the goal.
So somehow.
Are we all set?
Yes.
Okay, everybody, good morning. I'm going to call to order the Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission for February 13th, 2023. And let's do a roll call. Let's start from on the dais from my left to right.
Isaac Durgan, 3rd District.
Howard Prakash, 5th District. Keith Goffman Gray, Chair, 5th District. Sheila Snow, 1st District. Randy Malcolm, 5th District.
Rob, 4th District. Ronald Nye, at large.
Okay, we have a quorum. Let's move on to public comments. Do we have any comments for for any item that is not on today's agenda?
Yes, I did receive a speaker's. I did receive a speaker's from Paulina Khan.
Okay, go ahead, Paulina Khan.
Good morning, Chair and Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission. I just want to thank you very, very much for all the hard work and good diligence and many years. And that we finally got Rockingham Park to be in the county historic landmark. It was all because of your unanimous decision, I believe, and the debate over the 4-4 decision. Anyway, it was very interesting listening to the board of supervisors, and we did the best we could. We did the very, very, very best all of you could, and the community really appreciates all of your hard work and your dedication and your expertise. It was really marvelous. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have one more, Sheila Snow. I'm sorry,
Me?
Francis Hall.
Good morning, to happy New Year. I just want to personally thank you for your dedication and long heart and making it happen. But the community is going to make sure they protect this park, to be sure that they were so overjoyed and joyful celebration came from all over. Hundreds of people online and people we've never heard of. So it's really quite an occasion to have Rockingham Park, a historic landmark, and all the work you put into it really worth it, because you just did it like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we don't have any more public comment, so we'll move on to the minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd just like to thank Ms. Khan and Ms. Galt for their monumental effort. Obviously, it would not have occurred without them.
Yeah.
And I'll second that as well.
Here, here.
I think we all, it's a group effort, that's for sure. Many year group effort, and thank you so much. Okay, we'll move on to the minutes for January 9th, 2023. I believe we'll have some corrections here. So Commissioner Duncan, you want to start first, or?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do want to thank Commissioner Nye for the work he did putting together comments. Obviously, there was a very diligent effort to capture all intent. There's one place where I would say there was a bullet on an issue which I actually brought up, which I might like to suggest be slightly modified, and that's under the Nature Conservancy Gordon Davis House. And it's the third bullet, which was talking about the fact that they were going to replace the all the metal windows and turn them back to wood, the way they obviously were originally. We were able to see that in depictions of the front elevation, they weren't going to use, they did not have originally double hung sash. They had wood casement. And so I just would like this to read in a way which is flexible, so that it would allow them to use the double hungs when they have evidence that they were there, or if they don't have evidence, the casements were there. Because these are going to be more expensive and more difficult to find. And since we're also trying to have them keep the chimney, yeah, that's going to be another burden to some extent. So I just suggest that we revise so it reads, replace where appropriate existing metal sash windows, strike the not for now. So with wood single hung windows as proposed, but use wood double sash casement windows where depicted in historical photographs of the residence. So I do think our comments were pretty well reported here, but we don't have, and I did alert Jonathan to this, is they now appear that all these comments from full grown from the head of the HVAC. If you look at all three of these items here, there's nothing about the people who spoke to us and what they told us. And we always have that. We always have agent gave us an overview, post hail time, told us about the impacts. Those things are missing in all three of these cases. And I think we need those for those the minutes to be complete. And I did alert Jonathan to that fact. So actually, if they remain as they are, I'm not going to support these minutes.
Okay, Commissioner Butch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for Mr. Duncan. When you say double sash as opposed to double horn, I don't know what you mean by a double sash.
Well, if I said something like that, I'm just revising.
Right.
Double hung is what I mean.
I think it's wood sash double hung
Okay,
as opposed to wood sash
Yeah.
single hung.
I'm perfectly comfortable with using the same language that Commissioner Dodd used. I only changed where they would apply. I didn't change the names of the windows. So you can take up that debate with Commissioner Dodd.
With all respect, I think the term is wood sash, either double hung or double casement. It's hung and casements are two different types. Whereas the wood sash versus metal sash, those are two different materials. Little technical.
Yeah, I certainly agree, and why don't you suggest how it should read?
I think the only, I'm not quite sure. I think the original building had wood sash windows of different types. Some were single, some were doubles, whatever. But they put in metal sash, and they are proposing to remove the metal sash and to replace them with the wood sash, double hung, single casements, whatever. That's all I would do, is just get the sash to be wood sash versus metal sash. And then the rest, I think, follows from the fact that they're, I think that would clarify it for me. I could support those minutes. But I do have some corrections on the page 4, item 11. The one that pertains to, where is this? What happened? Here we go. Here we go. Unapproved. Yeah, on the last page there, item 11. There are 6 bullets. And they all seem to be hitting at the same thing, but I'd like to suggest a change in the language. First language would be the massing of the project is out of scale with the original, rather than the way it reads.
Out of scale of the original.
Number 2, a portion of the original house will remain, but the proposed addition does not match the Monterey revival style of the original building. That point is reiterated in the last bullet, which I suggest be removed. It says the same thing. Number 3, about being very happy. I don't really feel comfortable as a commissioner being very happy. But I do think that the commission is pleased to see the original windows being.
I think I'm the one that said that. I'm changing
But to see the original windows being refurbished and reinstalled. I mean, we don't need to go into all over it, but to refurbish and reinstall. The 4th bullet would be relocation of the building. It's, I wouldn't be destroyed, it's losing the historic integrity of both the structure and the site. I think that is a fair way to say that. And the last one that I did, the entrance facade, instead of saying would not be impaired by the revised project, is not impaired by the revised project. Present tense rather than woulds and coulds and shoulds and all that kind of stuff. Those are my suggestions, and I've written these out and I passed these on to the chair. And I invite your response.
And Mr. Chair, I did not write any of those comments.
Okay,
Some Mr. Serious person did, was not.
this, it all goes back to the old brevity is the soul of wit. And we like to have good comments.
Any other commissioner comments in the minutes?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm glad Commissioner Whitlock took it on and to go through and make those more accurate and consistent. I would have done that myself, except that I wasn't planning to support the minutes as a whole for a different reason. Thank you.
So since we want to probably bring these back as revised minutes, do we need to do a vote for that or just not approve the minutes and have them come back at the next meeting?
I think we should continue the minutes to the next meeting.
Just move the minutes to the next meeting. Okay, and do a motion for that.
Continue, yeah, motion for
Okay.
minutes.
I do a motion to continue these minutes for the next meeting, to come back to us, with the corrections that have been, mentioned today. So, and we have a second. Yeah, I would say
I have a discussion on
discussions on this.
this issue came up at our last meeting too. That the minutes needed to include more than what was here. In particular, the applicants and other participants, so. Just throwing that in there.
I also want to just say that when I was going through the old Rocky Nook minutes, who spoke on about what on public comment, I have to say the ones that were more detailed, I was able to figure out who talked about, like say Chumash, who was a Chumash for the talk. And the other ones would just say public comment. And, so when we have more detail, it does make a big difference when we go back, when we need to look at the minutes in the future. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor to table these for moving till next month, say aye. Okay, pass. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to chair staff update, item number 4. Staff, do you have any updates?
No updates from staff.
Okay, the chair has a few items I want to go over. First, I just want to let the commissioners know that on January 24th at the Board of Supervisors meeting, former Commissioner Frank Rue, he is treasurer of the Lompoc Veterans Memorial Building, and his foundation was honored with a resolution that day. And for all their work and getting grants, they've gotten over $2 million in grants to refurbish that, and they still have more work to go. And Supervisor Joan Hart brought up the resolution and honored them for their hard work in working on the Lompoc Veterans Memorial Building. So I just wanted to mention that to everybody today, because he was on our board, a commission for quite a while, and he always talked about the Veterans Memorial Building and what they were doing. So he's still working strong on that. The second item I want to talk about is the Super 8 Motel, City of Goleta. If you remember, the last meeting, we had a letter from the Housing Authority of Santa Barbara, County Housing Authority. And I was tasked with checking in to see if the City of Goleta had also received the letter of their Historic Landmarks Commission. And they had. I talked to Julianne Murphy, who's the who wrote the letter and who's the contact person. And she said, definitely they got the letter. And I just let her know that we, really didn't have any comments specifically about this project. And she was very thankful that I called, and she would make note that, we responded to the letter. Okay. Item number C, I'm talking about ethics training reminder. Everyone should have gotten that email. If you did ethics last year, you don't have to do it again this year. I personally didn't do it last year, so I had to do it this year. So if you remember, if you did it last year, you don't have to do it. But if you didn't do it last year, it's every 2 years you need to do this ethics course. And if you didn't get the link, email Jonathan and he can send it to you. Okay, and the last one, Rockingham Park. I'm just going to go over kind of what happened that day. And unfortunately, this is not a agendized item, so we can't discuss it. But I just kind of wanted to go over it because some of you were there in person or online, and some of you were not. And so we do now have a county landmark number 54. And as we said earlier, we're very happy about that. It was approved on a vote of 4-1. And how do we get back to that? As our last meeting a month ago, I think I told everybody that I was going to be doing a presentation in front of the Board of Supervisors. This was something that was decided a few months ago. Planning Development said they didn't want to do it, and they had wanted me to do it. And I said, sure, I'll do the presentation. Well, about a week before the meeting, I got a call from Planning Development, and they made a mistake. Commissions cannot do presentations in front of the Board of Supervisors. So at the last minute, Planning Development was with the task of doing the presentation of Rockingham Park. And and they said that I could do a 3-minute comment, in public comment. So when the packet came out, there was what they call the Board of Supervisors agenda letter, and it was very detailed. And if you didn't see it, it was in their packet. I hope you did, because it really did go into really detail about the past and how we got to where we are with this resolution. But it also has a comment that, planning that Public Works would not support it, as we know, without that language in it. But it also said that the County Parks Department would not support it unless this language was included, which was in this letter. Now, as you know, we never got any approved language from the Parks Department in the past, so it was kind of a surprise to see that. So when I did my little 3-minute speech, I basically went over the background of what we had done And then I mentioned that, what the Parks Department had, they wanted to add in this letter was maintenance, capital improvements, safety projects being exempt. So my little talk then, I just mentioned that, well, you know, Public Works is talking about one little part on the road, you know, as far as safety projects and capital improvements. If you have that language of the whole park, it would mean the whole park for capital improvements would be exempt. So I kind of made that case quickly. Ron Nye, Commissioner Nye was there, and he also spoke on that. Commissioner Snow was speaking from Santa Barbara, which makes it harder to get the feel of the room, but she eloquently spoke about how HLAC enjoys, you know, it's not a burden to come to HLAC for any kind of project for us to look at. And she very eloquently spoke about that, and I thought that really was well. So when I got to discussion, and then after all the public comments, and we had lots of public comments from the Chumash community, from of course Pauline Kong, Professor Gall, I can't name them all, but there was a lot of people that spoke. And they were limited to 2 minutes. And so when public did their presentation, they had 3 slides. One was a brief history of Rockland Park. The second one was the two objections by both county parks and county public parks and public works. And then the third one was the options for supervisors, which was either approve as written, approve as amended, or don't approve. And so then it went to the supervisors to discuss. Supervisor Williams brought the language forward from both of them that they would support it if this was in there. And Supervisor Hartman spoke up and said that she was concerned about the language about the capital improvements for the whole park and why it shouldn't be able to come to us for approval or discussion. And so County Parks then came back with a revision, and that is what I just passed out with you, which is the actual language in that in the new resolution. And so if you notice, they added it's number 2. Let's see, existing elements of the park used by the public for passive recreation. So the county public park said, you know, we'll put in passive recreation. So that means if they decide to put a basketball court, which they're not planning to, or a zip line or whatever down the road, passive, that would not fall under passive recreation. So passive recreation is hiking trails. The playground falls under that, but as far as anything for sports or anything would not be, it would fall under passive, which means it would have to come to us in the future, you know, it's 100 years from now or whatever. So, so they added that language, and Supervisor Hartman still wasn't happy with that. And so when it finally came to the vote, it was 4-1. She definitely said that she was in favor of Rockland Park being a historic landmark, and she voted against the proposed wording that was approved. So that's how we got to the 4-1 vote. So I just wanted to go over that quickly so you can know what happened. But that is the language I passed out, and I believe we got the new copies of the resolution printed so you can pick it up and read. The ones that you picked up are were on your dais this morning, or the wrong copy, so destroy those copies because they don't have that new language. So that is Rocky Neck Park, and I say we're very happy that it is passed. But I just wanted to go through the little nuances that went at the meeting in Santa Maria on January 24th. So that is my comments for chair update, and staff said they had nothing. So unfortunately, we cannot discuss this, but I think it's very explanatory that you have a historic landmark. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. First, I want to thank the chair because he brought this back and recognized that the time was appropriate to do so. And I think obviously the board always is the place where the rubber hits the road and where they have to do a very careful balancing act. But generally speaking, I'd say we did a lot better than we could have in this regard. I also note that we certainly ended up with better language because it continually worked on. And obviously the chair was working on that the entire time. The other thing that I couldn't help but notice is that they were talking about, well, what if they want to just change the bathrooms? And the bathrooms are specifically exempted unless they expand them. And that was already there, right?
What surprised me is like there was the planning development who did the presentation, only had 3 slides. They never showed the resolution to the board of supervisors. That was great. They had it. I mean, they had it in front of them. But I can imagine all the paperwork that they see, not having it in front of them to scroll. A lot of the stuff you see there is already in the resolution. And I was like itching in my seat. I wanted to jump up. And of course, you can't do that. And they were into their discussion. So, but yeah, that was very frustrating that they didn't even show the resolution to the board of supervisors in their presentation.
And that was also true with the playground. With the playground, they could also work on the playground. So long as they don't expand it, right, and then it becomes. But I want to thank everybody and thanks for the report.
Okay, so we'll move on to item number 5, project discussion. County Historic Landmark Advisory Committee discuss any funding potential historic projects. I don't think we have anything going on this way. So we'll move on to number 6 is the budget, and we did receive the latest budget in front of us today. This is just for our information. Does anyone want any discussion on the budget? Hearing none, we'll move on to district reports, item number 7. Any individual commissioners may present brief reports that would be of interest to the public and or commission members. Do we have any district reports? None at all. Okay. Oh, moving right along here. Okay, we're going to move on to the standard agenda. Okay, item number 8. Biltmore alterations. The County Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission will review and provide comments on the proposed substantial conformity determination to 98 DT-03 to allow for alterations to the Biltmore Hotel. Alterations include 1, reconfiguration of the step terrace outside of the Bella Vista Restaurant and Thai Lounge. The middle and lower terrace deck areas are proposed to increase approximately 150 square feet in size and be reconfigured into a rectangular design with the addition of landscape planters. The increased area will not support additional tables or patrons. 2, new double doors are proposed to be incorporated into the existing arch window on the south elevation of the La Marina. The new door and window configuration will match the existing window and doors at the Thai Lounge. The addition of stairs and a new raised landing with guardrail will provide guest access to the front lawn. 3, existing brick pathway layout will be reconfigured to accommodate changes to the terrace area and new landing. 4, construction of new pedestrian gates at the existing easterly and westerly pedestrian entrances along Panel Drive. Grading of less than 50 cubic yards and no tree removal is proposed. The parcel will be served by the Montecito Water District, the Montecito Sanitary District, and the Montecito Fire Protection District. Access will continue to be provided off of Channel Drive. The property is a 12.32 acre parcel, and it's located at 1260 Channel Drive in the Montecito Community Plan area. Okay, do we have any disclosures from commissioners for this project today? I just want to mention that as chair, I received an outreach from the planner, Henry Bakamagaya, and about this project a couple of weeks ago, wanting to know if I would want to go ahead and just approve it since it's small alterations or bring it to the full A flag. And I said, no, we need to bring this to the full A flag. So that's my thing for today. Anything else? Okay. Well, let's move on to the staff report. From the planner.
Hi, Henry, can you hear us?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, trying to figure out my audio real quick. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Yeah, I just wanted to note something real quick. The project description in the agenda was a little bit outdated. The increase in the patio size is actually 479 square feet and not the 150 square feet that was noted in that. I believe in the folder for this item, there's a couple different materials. There's a cover letter that was provided with the initial application from the agent Terry Malinowski. There's a historic report from the architectural historian Alexander Cole, as well as a planner memo that I put together and the project plans. I don't know if you would like me to walk through the plans first and just give you an idea of where everything's occurring on the site, but yeah, I'd be happy to do so or answer any questions that you have.
Okay, well, probably we'll have a presentation from the architect and stuff on this project. So thank you for that introduction, and then we'll move on with the presentation from the architect and historical report. Thank you.
Sounds good.
So
Thank
let's
you.
go ahead and move on to the presentation. Steve Maldonado, partner. I don't know if you have any plans.
Yeah, I have them all.
Okay.
Guys, we're going to go through first.
You go to the.
Yes.
So this is the site plan, we got some few photos on the left that shows the conditions. At the south, there said area where the plans, you'll notice that it works very small area compared to the rest of the site. There's an existing terrace patio there that we're just expanding to make more formal percolator design to allow the audience of the views and maximize the views for all the guests. Okay. On the next sheet, please. Here's just to show kind of the existing versus proposed. The majority of the square footage addition will be the landing that's going to be added at lawn and winter room. And then in the south lawn on the lower right, the site plan, if you can scroll down to site lead, there are two proposed gates at the west and east entrance of the lawn. And all scroll down, next page, please. And then this is just a small plan showing the circulation along the grade everything is 50 cubic feet. And I think that's it for his. And here's some elevations to go. Where we're proposing the landing and the door at the exterior window on the west side of the building will be matching what's existing at the tie line. There will be an existing opening, a steel window that will be incorporated in the door. And then at the bottom, you can see where the terrace landing is proposed. Currently, the middle terrace landing is a lot smaller, so we're just expanding the middle terrace and lower terrace next. And I think our last week we have our landscape. Just currently right now, it's a simple landscape plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I also have Alexander Cole here who can go over the historical report. If you guys would like her to do that right now, or answer any questions. Yeah, I think it'd be good to hear the historic from the historic report. Thank you.
Chair Kaufman Ray, members of the commission. Alexander Cole, architectural historian, and now retired, but brought out of retirement. I've been working on the project since 2001, not daily, but as whenever it needed to have somebody come and do the significance evaluation. But you have copies of my report, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you got the photos of the window and so forth. and what the change is going to be. A brief history of this was that, Marriott Hotel bought the Biltmore Hotel in Marriott bought the Biltmore in 1976 and was going to make plans for it. For major changes that would be for the hotel's 25th anniversary. It was built in 1927. By the architect Reginald Johnson. He did the main building as well as the 8 cottages that are on the site. And they wanted to do, I guess it had fallen in kind of in a decline over the years. And so they wanted to make changes to make it more with it for their 25th anniversary. So they drew up plans that, interestingly enough, from my point of view, Marriott bought it in 1976 and drew up the plans. And it doesn't indicate that there was any historic surveillance of the plans. I think that was before our time, as it were. And so they were just, the plans were approved by the Board of Supervisors. And then came to be built. And it took until 1982 for those plans to actually be built. And one of the changes, there were a number of changes along the south elevation of that building A1, which is what we're dealing with, the one with the arched windows and so forth. And what happened at that time was that there were 2 arched windows on that south elevation, one on the east and one on the west. And the one on the east, they put in a double door. And then they also added, it used to have a nice open patio right in the center, and they enclosed that patio at the time with glass. And so those were some of the changes that took place. And then in 2000, Ty Warner bought the property and again wanted to make some changes. And this time, however, they were required to do a historic report. And so that's why I was hired by Mr. Warner to do that. And in my findings, I said that the buildings were eligible as county landmarks. I didn't do at that time, that didn't seem, I mean, I never thought of it, and I think this is the kind of idea that came with later projects. I didn't say it was a historic district, but I simply said that those 4 major buildings designed by Reginald Johnson, and plus the cottages also by Reginald Johnson, were eligible as county landmarks. And so that, and I said when I looked at that south elevation, I saw the windows that had been put in the glass arched door. And I said that because they fit into the existing muntins, you'll see in that picture in your report that window has 2 overscale muntins coming down the center for support. And that's where they put the doors. And the same would happen on the window that's proposed on the southwest elevation. And I said that since it already had those overscale muntins, and they were just going to build the doors within that since I didn't find the other door to be taking away from the overall integrity, then I would say the same for this. Oh, he's going to put that. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ruth. Have you got the picture?
Yes, that'll be on screen right here.
Okay. This is a really nice, okay, keep going, please. There, you see, this is in the southwest window, but you see those overscale muntins? running vertically, and that's where the doors would be cut in the center. And my feeling was that that this would not be, would not damage its significance, which we already had the one over on the southeast corner, and this would fit in with the existing one too. So that was my feeling towards this.
Jonathan, could you keep scrolling?
Yes, sir.
See, that's the one that's already there. And I felt that it still has that large arch, it still has the smaller multi-pane. And the way it fits into those multi-panes seemed to me that it would be all right, that it would not be a significant change. And one of the Secretary Material Standards 10, if you, in some future, which probably would never happen, they would remove these doors, you could restore the window to its original. It hadn't been so changed from the original. So that was my finding on that. And then there was also the idea at the gates, having pedestrian gates down on Channel Drive. And can you scroll to see, so. Because the thing is, the billboard has been closed for some time and life has changed along Channel Drive. They're all, it used to be sort of people would just come to the Biltmore because that's what was down there. But now with the Biltmore closed, people are coming down to go to the beach. They're coming down just to walk. They're coming over from the Miramar that has since opened that hotel. They walk from the Miramar over to here. And so traffic on, okay. So there's a lot more traffic that isn't Biltmore related. And I think that was why they wanted to put pedestrian gates here, just to say, okay, this is where the people from the Biltmore, when they come up from the beach, go through. And the rest of you, please keep walking along Channel Drive. And so what they're proposing is, this is one pedestrian entrance. What they're proposing is that, can you scroll down just a minute so we can,
Oh, this one here.
yeah, those are the main entry gates. And what they were going to do is make smaller entry gates that look like those, but more diminished, so that it wasn't, it would look like that, but not stand out visually. And that was going to be on the main pedestrian entrance from the beach. And so that's what's proposed there with wrought iron. And then, can you scroll down through? That's the entrance where those would take place. And now if you can scroll down one more. And this is a much smaller entryway further west, a smaller path that less formal to get into the Biltmore. And at this point, they would be wanting to just put a wrought iron gate in between those tall hedges. And so those are the changes that are proposed that I looked at. And so if you've got questions, you have to answer them.
Okay, any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Duncan, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Cole.
Thank you.
In reading your letter, I noted that there is a reference to the patio area and it being in scale. And what I'm wondering about is, was that when it was at 150 square feet, or have you had a chance to look at the 475 that they're proposing now?
What have I?
Consider the dollars. And increase, 457, over what's there.
Over what's there, yes.
The total is about 3,000.
So have you had a chance to look at it?
Yeah.
So that you can
Yeah.
still tell us this is in scale?
So what my point here was that what I was doing was responding to the buildings that were declared significant. And the landscaping had been so changed over time from 82 on that I did not include that because when I was doing my 2001, I said the landscape has been so changed over time that it's not significant and that the lawns are significant, but it's not pristine from the way it was in 1927. So I really didn't go into that part.
Well, we understand, I think that you didn't necessarily think it was a contributing element, a character defining element, because it was something done later. But there's still the issue for us, for anything that's historic integrity that remains, we want to see things up next to them that are compatible with that. So you haven't actually had a chance or considered that.
Well, I've looked at it, but I considered that beyond my scope.
Then your answer may be the same. I'm going to ask you about the eucalyptus tree that they're proposing to dig out. Is this part of the original landscape plan?
No,
This was a later addition itself. Yes.
I think so. I don't know. I can't say, oh, yes, so came and planted it there. So I have to be honest, no, I don't know.
But it's not part of the original landscape plan that you looked at, or did you have a chance ever to look at the original landscape plan?
There was never a chance to look at the 1927 landscape plan. No, excuse me, Commissioner Duncan. No, there wasn't a chance to go back that far.
Okay. Do we have any idea how old the tree is? Thank you, Mr. Paul.
So the tree actually has been removed because of the emergency permit during the major rains this last month. A few of the eucalyptus trees on the property did fall, and because of safety concerns, the tree has been. Yeah, and I just would like to comment on the deck a little bit. If we could go back to the plans, just so that you kind of sense the scale. The majority of the increase, 400 square feet, comes from the raised landing. So the scale of the deck, for the most part, remains the same. It's just the instead of having a curvilinear, if you go to the previous. And one more. If you look at the plans on the bottom of the top, it's kind of hard to see the whole plan on this view. We're only coming out about 5 feet of the existing deck. And then it's just, instead of becoming a curvilinear edge, it's just rectilinear. So the amount of square footage, the majority of it is actually coming from the landing in front of the lawn marina room, not the increase side of the full deck. Any other commissioner questions? Commissioner Knight.
Yes, thank you. Could you, I don't know which direction to scroll to show that the south elevation that's on page 8 of the report you're on right now.
Plans on 6 pages, you said page 8.
Yeah, it was page 8 at the top of the page. So it's you were very close to it. Just a second. Shows the south. I think that might be it. Except that it's yeah. Can you enlarge that at all? Okay, so could I ask Ms. Cole to return to the witness stand?
Your Honor, I didn't do that.
So here's the south elevation, and you in your report you talk about the southeast window arched window and the southwest arched window. Which one is which, for the benefit of our whole
Oh,
group,
thank you. If you look on the right side, the southeast,
okay,
and that's where the existing double door is.
okay,
And then where on the left side is the southwest. Where that's where the double door is proposed to go into that window.
okay, Jonathan, can you increase that elevation at the bottom? The size of that? Oh, very good, thank you. Okay, so then the one on the right is where that's the Thai room. I
Yeah.
think.
The time is,
That's a restaurant and a bar, right?
I don't know what it is now, because it's closed and there's a lot of just empty. It's a Thai lounge, it's gonna be the, okay, thank you for telling me.
Oh, that helps.
Thai lounge.
Okay, so in 1982, amongst the changes that were made on that elevation, that those doors were in place. We can get a photo of those.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Do you see all that glass enclosure? That was an open patio and they closed it in with glass and it has a glass.
Oh, you mean between the columns?
You see all those windows?
Those square windows?
Yeah,
So that was done off.
82, that had been open and that was closed in.
All right, that helps a lot.
So it made me think that Jorge, it would be nice to put that double window on the left hand window southwest. Because so many changes have been made, but it's still red to my mind. For as if you took the whole building. But the south elevation was the one that was the least pristine of the elevations.
Okay, and then moving to the east, the west, over to the left side. That's where the new doors are gonna go in to match the doors already existing. There's a photo in your report of that current elevation. It doesn't show, any steps or a landing or grill work. It's very plain. Is that an original? Is that an original wing as we see it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It was all part and parcel.
Okay,
It was all once very, very plain, and then once 1982 came along. Was when all these changes were made.
I see. And why was the decision to made? This might be an architect's question, but are you comfortable with the vertical member grill work and the added massing on the end of that elevation?
What do you mean, around the patio?
Well, the new terrace and steps, which aren't there.
Right. Yes, I was comfortable with that because again, I thought it was the whole facade had been changed, altered, and that would not be an undue imposition, further imposition on that. And also what they were trying to do is bring more people down onto the lawn. And that was what. Yeah, wanted more people being able to use that lawn. For stage, well, nobody's using it right now, because it's closed, but they wanted to make sure that people could come out of that entrance too, and go down onto the lawn.
Isn't there? I don't know for sure, but isn't there another access to the lawn on the west end of that? You can't quite see it here.
The,
Jonathan, could you move the image to the right a little bit? No.
so currently,
Yeah.
so currently there's no access from within the building to the lawn unless you're going through the restaurant. At the end of the, which you can't see, which is beyond where the landing is like their banquet facility, which wouldn't be access to the front. So the only way to get access to the lawn is having to go all the way on the far side pathways. This would allow guests who are staying in that main building to gain a more direct access to the lawn.
Okay, thank you. Did you consider perhaps using glass railing on that new terrace?
Last reading,
Well, I mean, since you've got it
it's,
already on the time.
it's a wind, it's a current existing windscreen.
Yes. okay.
And so what we decided was the landing to just left to be zoom in on the middle elevation. There's an existing kind of patio landing that has wrought iron work, so we decided to match that.
Thank you, and that's all. Should
Commissioner Mitchell.
This is a question for Ms. Cole. So the glass windscreen, that is an existing element,
Yeah.
and when was it built?
When was that? I don't know either, but it's modern, very modern.
Yeah. And also that little terrace that appears to be new with the iron railing outside the newly created door in the west entrance. Is that terrace new
Yes,
and the railing?
yes.
And that's proposed, what is there now?
Could you scroll down, please?
Do you know which she?
No, it's the photos.
Oh, the photos.
Photos. Keep going until we get to the photos.
My understanding is it's just a window with landscaping below it.
There it is, upside down.
Yeah,
Then your neck.
that's my recollection as well. Okay. Okay. Do you have any thoughts about the glass windscreen as being not appropriate for the historic setting?
Are you talking about the
That's a
present
question.
glass?
That's a question.
Or I'm
The
asking,
glass windscreen, yes.
but are you suggesting the glass windscreen on the patio or the glass windscreen in general?
The glass windscreen that is there today, which was added recently or more recently, since 1982, I believe.
Mhm.
How did you evaluate that as a historian, architectural historian? The glass windscreen.
Commissioner Whittosh, I did not go into all the changes with the landscaping because there have been so many. And to not know, not have the 1927 plan in front of me, but just to know that there's always been this lawn, sloping lawn from Biltmore down to Channel Drive, and that over time, depending on what owner owned it and what they felt would be a useful use of how to screen the wind. They just made those changes, and so I did not go into that necessarily.
In your opinion, these changes that have taken place before now and now, do they compromise the integrity of that site as a landmark site or potential? And in fact, I don't actually know whether this is a designated. It's not designated.
No, you're just, it was one of it in those reports that we were writing, you have to determine the significance at the county level. Then,
Right.
landmark. And so,
So at the moment, the Biltmore is not designated
right,
of anything, state, local, national registers, historic
it's
places.
not officially designated.
It's just a great building.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay, I understand.
and it's important to the community. I think that's why we wanted to bring it before you. Because it is. But some of these changes, from my point of view, need to be made in order to,
Make it viable.
yes. But they weren't rising to the level of damaging the overall significance of that building.
And so undoing the sins of the past is not gonna be part of this.
That's true. That's true, like most things. in life.
We'll touch that. Okay, but
That's not, at least from the historian's point of view,
Right.
beyond our purview.
okay, I understand. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes.
Commissioner questions? Commissioner Knight?
I have a follow-up for the architect. Sir, if you look at that photo on the far left. Yeah, there are steps down to the landscaping.
On the left, correct.
Yeah, so it would appear that there is a way to get down to.
So those are areas where they use for like events and weddings, which is not typically open to the public. So it typically is closed, so that way the La Marina room it's open, it has a circulation path that goes to the lobby. So that's why we kind of propose, for the guests at the hotel, have a more direct central access to the lawn. Whereas that access is only if you were a member of an event at that facility.
Good.
And then I just confirmed with the owner that the glass windscreen was installed in 2003, 2004, and it did go through HLAC for comment and did get approved.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? Okay, I have a couple questions before we move on. The pathway around patio, you're going to be putting a new pathway in.
Yes.
Replacing the old one.
Yes,
It sounds like it's been heard that there's no historic record of these pathways. I mean, do you know the age of that pathway that's there now?
I don't think that path is historic. I think that was done in the 80s when that patio was.
Okay, is it cement? Is it brick?
It's brick.
It's brick, the match what those pictures show, that
Yeah.
same one, okay. And what, the new patio, the rectangular patio, what is the composition of it? Is it cement? Is it gonna be?
It's going to be probably brick, right? That's something that we decided, but we will probably just kind of match.
That's good. And you're planning to put the window, the windscreen, the clear glass back.
Yes,
Is it on each level? You're gonna put the.
no, only on the outside perimeter.
Only on the outside perimeter, it's not on the upper level. Okay. And then on the new window, the picture there, so we have no idea of the landscaping that if it's any of it's original or not.
That will, I do not know, but I can tell that that landscaping was not.
Okay. And then the grading, you said a wrought iron rating?
It's wrought iron rating.
Like black or what?
Black, yeah, piece of black.
Okay, those are my questions. Commissioner Duncan.
Mr. Chair, yes, actually, this is something that Mr. Whitash brought, correcting the sentence of the past. I can see why, Ms. Cole recommended that with this new door, it use the pattern of the door arrangement that's being used on the southwest
Yes,
and not what's used on the southeast,
correct.
because that's totally patched up and doesn't work. Have you considered making all three of them the same?
I haven't, but we can definitely, and are you referring to what's the third? I'm sorry, I'm not.
Well, you're going to take what's a window now and make it a door. And the model you're using is what exists at the southwest
Correct.
door now. But we saw pictures of the southeast. And can we show that one again? It has a door arrangement that doesn't match the lungeons in the same way. And the scale of the window doesn't fit either. This one is the one which, is this southeast or southwest?
Southeast.
Southeast. Okay,
So you're referring to the actual door?
yeah,
Okay. We haven't looked at that, but we can definitely take that into consideration.
because this definitely looks like a clumsy arrangement as compared to the other.
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Knight?
Mr. Duncan, which other window are you referring to? That looks not clumsy. Do you mean the existing southwest window?
Yeah, I can just scroll down the picture above that. With the other there. So,
Are you saying the existing one is the one that looks good? Which I agree.
Yeah, that's a window. It's easy to divide the window of 3 equals. It's not so easy to divide a pair of doors,
Right,
and that's a technical problem.
right. Yeah, I recognize that.
Solve that problem right away.
Yeah.
So, are you going to use this model with your new one?
Well, currently we are matching what we have at the southeast elevation. As you can see, there's 3 panes currently in between the 2 enlarged muntins, so I would find it difficult to split that center, the center panes into 2 doors. So I think that's how it was resolved with the other window.
Well, I guess what I was looking at was this, which must be a depiction of the window and not the door.
Correct.
Okay.
This is an existing window on the inside.
So, I'm confused now as to what is proposed, because you're proposing to do this one. I don't see that the muntins are, maintained the same way. They get doubled up, with the weight of the door.
If you can go to the previous photo.
Yeah, you can see the other.
Bring this down. That's a window on the door. So you can see the original window that was there did match the window that we are proposing the new door. And so they just added the door in between the 2 pane windows on the outside. So that's where our intent is to match, is this condition that's currently there.
The division of lights. The division of lights in the above the door and on the side lights are the same,
Correct.
just the door.
Just the door.
And it replaces 2 doors, replace
3, exactly.
Okay, thank you. I don't feel this is a very elegant doorway in this window arrangement, and I don't think what's proposed, if it matches this, it's going to look very elegant. Thank you.
okay, I was gonna say that, it sounded like a question. Any other questions? Okay, do we have any public comment on this item?
Mr. Chair, I have nobody in the attendees column to make the public comment.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody here is here to make a public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on to commissioners' comments on this item. Who would like,
I'll go first because I have.
okay, and then
I think this proposal is very skillfully done. The gates are appropriate. The patio is appropriate. Only comment that I have is about the pathway, which seems to follow a grid almost, because you've squared off the patio. You've now squared off the pathway. I don't know if that's necessary. And one of the charming features of the front lawn is the rather meandering, casual nature of the pathway. And it creates a kind of play, like in playfulness. Whereas the rectilinear pathway is very serious. And I would move away from seriousness The patio already is very square, and you have reinforced that with of course, the glass panels. And I have a problem with the glass panels. Even though they were approved by this commission before I was born. And it's again, sin to the past. So I know that this patio is important to the community, it's important to the business operation. So I think that's probably okay, if you could wiggle the glass panels a little bit, so they were meandering or more irregular. So it wouldn't be just a straight square subdivision. It would be an improvement. That's what I would like to, the main point that I would like to say about this. Other than that, the detailing is fine. I understand the problem with the doors. I've encountered this problem many times in my musical chords and so forth. Yeah. That's what I say.
Thank you. Commissioner Malcolm, anything else?
Yes, thank you. Just a quick clarification question. So the picture we see there at the door, the surrounding, the left and right side and the above, are those, that historic windows from 1927, other than the dormer?
On that window, I don't think they're restored.
Okay,
The whole window was installed and.
oh, but the one on the south and west, that's the original window from 1927. Okay. So I have a suggestion comment. There was a controversial compromise in the landmarking of the Kroll Casino, whereas the top, the restaurant that was there, they had to remove some of the historic cabanas. So the compromise was to remove that material of the cabanas that had to be removed, placed in storage. And I'm suggesting now for the southwest window that's completely historic, don't alter it, just simply remove it, put that in storage, and just have a new model for a door.
I think we can definitely do that.
Yeah, that would just,
And I think my structural engineer would happily do that.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, who wants to do next comments? Commissioner Knight?
I just had, Mr. Architect, I didn't catch your response.
So for the new window, or where we're adding the door, the gentleman is suggesting that we remove the whole window as an intact piece and store it. And then the new glass planes and door can be installed as one piece at the new. So in case we ever want to restore in the future, I think we're restoring.
Thank you.
Commissioner Malcolm, thank you for this. I would say that from a historic point of view is to leave all the existing windows that you can, and just take out that center panel, put in the doors, the new doors, and leave the rest of the windows there. You could save the ones that you took out. That would be that center panel of 3 windows all the way down. You could save those windows and put those in storage. I think that's a good idea, but I would not want to remove the whole historic window. I just would like to remove what we need to for the doors.
Okay, with no disrespect, but it seems like that would invite potential damage to the rest of the window, rather than just removing the whole thing as one piece. You're just removing bits and pieces and putting in the door, and it just seems like there's potential for unneeded damage for the whole thing.
There may not, could you go back to the southwest window, is that just above or just north? Yeah, right there. You see those 2 strong munchins, the heavy ones? That would seem to then protect the parts that are original. When you put in the doors, those are sturdy for the new doors. And that you could keep the rest of the windows.
Ms. Nicole?
Yeah.
I could probably assist here.
Thank you.
One of the reasons why you have the strong mullions is because it allows the muntins, which are the little ones, thin ones, to be very thin,
Mhm.
because they're only spanning, they're spanning a shorter distance. So in the scheme of things, when you do the other door and use the strong mullions, you have the opportunity to leave the thin muntins in a historic, and I believe that's the way the other window has been done. And I have one comment to add, Mr. Malcolm, to Mr. Malcolm's comment, and that is from the photograph of the existing,
Which is this, yeah.
which is this, but to the other one, the one with the doors.
Can you do the. Yeah,
So in that case, I do know that historically it was possible to make door frames out of the same muntin gauge that they had for the windows. Instead of being a T shape, they would be an L shape, and they were a little stronger. But those actually are hollow tube, thin. So I would urge you to make the doors out of the same gauge material as the existing muntins, thereby making the dimension of the door frame disappear. That is possible. Keep your sash, your historic sash, modify the new sash so that you have more of a transparent element. And the doors, even though you have different shaped lights, all goes to zero, not zero, but it goes to the minimum. They are just lines. They're not really structured. The only structure that really is worth preserving is the two mullions. So if you go to the Paseo and see some of the old ironwork there, you will see that the doors originally were again the same gauge as the sidings. It's the way they did it in those days. It would be authentic and it would help, I think, your elevation. And I may make Mr. Elko a little more happy. I don't know.
Okay, Commissioner Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would support Commissioner Whittosh's comments regarding the layout of the path and how a curvature arrangement would seem to fit in more. And also anything you can do, as he suggests, to lighten up the branch of this that door you're going to put in, I would appreciate. I think it will make any impact. It will reduce the impact on the not only on the view, but also on the change from the fenestration.
Okay, we're in commissioner comments.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Whittosh wholeheartedly, especially about the meandering path. If you look at the overall plan, there are other paths around with cottages and everything meanders. And if you could soften that right angle, that would be, you could branch it off. You could see how it would just be a little bit softer. It would be more in line with that. And I also agree with the
Did you finish your comments? We kind of jumped around. If you have no comments on the project, besides just the window.
Well, just I guess finish. I'm no window expert, however, I'm just uncomfortable with altering the existing historic window. I'd rather just have it as a whole put in storage, and then we can just build a brand new one to their next specifications. That would look nice and wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Okay, so I guess. Commissioner.
Thank you. I haven't heard the commissioner's remark about the proposed new a terrace and landing on the southwest. Opening. And I was interested in that, and I wondered what my fellow commissioners thought about that.
Mr. Nye, I have an interest in that as well. You have, well, one question would be the wrought iron railing. But where does it have a precedent on site?
Yes, it's just to the left of in the elevation of the drawing. There's an existing, railing there that we will have.
Do you have a picture of that, or
I don't have a picture, it's drawn in the elevation.
can you describe it?
It's about, I would say 30 inches tall, but we will probably have to do 42 for inch complying with code. And they're about 3 inches apart, about a 1 inch bar, or 3/4 inch bar, vertical bar.
How high is the terrace above grade?
Let's see, it's about in line with what we're proposing. You can zoom in on,
So what is that, is the inches, that would be, how high is it?
I would say it's probably about 3 feet, 36.
36 inches above grade.
Yes, and then the railing starts from there.
So you know that the code would, you would not need a railing if you were able to lower that
Correct.
terrace 6 inches. Is that possible?
We can definitely take a look at that.
Because then it would have no railing at all.
Yeah, we also don't want people to fall.
Well, you would fall into soft foliage.
Yeah.
Bushes.
Yes,
So that's allowed.
yes.
But, and also I noticed no landscaping in front of this terrace. That,
There probably will be, I just don't have it.
I think it would be good to have landscaping that softens
Yes,
with that line, and that landscaping would also be a kind of a cushion for it would
Yeah.
fall to the terrace. Is that a concern, people falling off there? I mean, are there gonna be people
well, just as
standing around up there?
in the commercial environment, is you just always want to be concerned when there's, there's a problem. Regardless of how.
Okay, I'll give you comments here. I like the idea of rounding the pathway a little bit more. I think all the commissioners mentioned that. My little concern was that we don't really know the history of the landscaping. And so when I looked at the replacement of the window with the door and all of that landscaping going away, I was a little concerned with that, but it looks like there's no historic landscaping there. I do have a concern with that little patio with the door. I like the idea that was mentioned about maybe lowering the patio. It's just, what makes it look so nice now, if you can bring up the picture of what it looks like now. It's just the window with the landscaping and having a big railing in front of that, blocking that really beautiful arched window. I think really takes away from the whole look of the building. So if there's a way to make that railing not look so in your face, what to it, I think would make a big thing. One of the questions I have here is ADA. You're doing steps down there. Where is the ADA?
The current circulation path for the ADA is on the front side of it's through the main lobby.
So if someone's attending, say, a wedding in the La Marina room, that to get down to the grass area, they have to go all the way around in front of the new patio over.
There is, but there's also a circulation path on the proposed patio that's less than 5%, so they will be able to exit through there as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as the, finishing my comments, as far as the door and the windows, I like the idea of, preserving as much as you can the old windows and then put the new door in. I don't like the idea of taking the whole thing out and then, but if it's feasible, to keep as many original windows as possible. But I like the idea of storing the old windows that you do take out for the door, just in case down the road you ever need that material to put it back in. So yeah, and then otherwise, I think it's a good project. My big concern was just that new little patio, just kind of ruining the whole look of that end of the building. But if you can somehow get that railing to look better, I appreciate that.
Okay.
So we have another comment from Commissioner Whithouse.
I was gonna ask a question about the patio. Is it part of an exit system?
What do you mean by it as a?
Well, do people need to get out of?
No, it won't be, no.
Other ways, they use other ways.
Right.
So accessibility is not,
No, not for that, yeah, for that patio is not.
so you could step it down one or two. I would suggest that.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Nye, about the patio. And the railing. Save a lot of money if you have to build a railing, bring that landscape up.
Yes, we can definitely bring it up.
Edge it or
We'll take a
something,
look.
so,
Okay.
nice project.
And don't think we have any more comments?
Yes, I-
Okay.
I'd like to
Commissioner
add. I agree with, pretty much all the comments, particularly about the necessity to, if the new doors can be made of the same gauge as the window scheme that exists, so they will appear to blend in better than the doors existing on the southeast window. And of course, I agree on the comments regarding the pathway, and even if anything can be done with the wind screens to soften that effect. My biggest concern is with the proposed new terrace on that existing original arched window. It certainly does impact in a not so gracious way what was once a historic facade that the public sees with kind of a cluttered up endpoint, in a short wing. So I would be more in favor of having a landing and steps to access the grass. But any seating or other arrangements, I would suggest putting them on the grounds at the same level as the existing terrace and already in existence, rather than at least you'd see more of the actual original architecture without being encumbered by the added structural massing of this raised heavy duty terrace. And I think that since there's been so many changes wrought in 1982, making another change at the other end of what's left of the original building doesn't make a lot of sense. I guess you could say, there's two wrongs make a right here. And why not strive to retain at least some originality about what's left on this building? So those are my comments, and I appreciate the architect and historians well thought out ideas and plans. It's one of those situations where historians can disagree to disagree. Thank you.
You can agree to disagree.
Commissioner Decker?
Agree to disagree.
Could we pull up the think it's the last sheet of the plans, which shows the landscape of the patio. And I understand, that you're creating here, this building. Can you watch a little bit on it?
Yes.
Okay, one virtue of what is there existing, rather amorphous blob, the organic patio shape that's there now, is it is just one space. It's very simple in that respect. And I think in that regard, it does not detract very much from the building. I'm a little concerned that this new patio space with all these boxwood hedges is really busy. And I would say it's also not a very flexible arrangement in the long run. I can see you've got all these tables laid out and you're essentially using the hedges as little dividers to make these private spaces. And I would suggest that you relook at that and look at all these little dividers and see what ones you can take out. And instead, just put a plant in a pot. It may be a rectangular planter or something like that. But that way you can move your tables around and change your thing. And then you do not have to maintain this fussy boxwood hedge where you have single elements die out. You will, if you can simplify this arrangement, I think that would have less likelihood of detracting from the building.
Commissioner Josh.
I agree with that comment. I think the circulation and use areas in this patio is not reduced to its most efficient level. I also had a little download while other people were talking about this terrace, which is protrudes out in kind of a block form. If you were to make that semicircular as an area, it would recede from the eye a little more, and it would be kind of a generous area to walk out onto, and would be able to you'd be able to make a more organic circulation around it. Just a suggestion.
Okay. Any more commissioner comments? Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
And you'll probably do a memo to send on to, is it go to NDR next? I believe. Yeah, so we'll probably do a memo like we normally do with our bullet points of our comments today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 9. We are going to be having a Brown Act training today.
Hi, everyone. Is that okay?
Can hear you, go ahead.
So I'm doing a presentation on the Brown Act today. Our department is going around giving presentations mostly related to the teleconferencing rules because those are new. But I talked with the chair and asked if a more general Brown Act presentation would be helpful, and we'll cover the teleconferencing rules and more general aspects. So the Brown Act was signed into law in 1953, and it was incorporated into the California Constitution by Proposition 59 in 1994. And then basic rule is all meetings of the legislative body shall be open and public. And there's a few exceptions that they're narrowly considered. Next slide. Yeah, you want to get up. Next slide. Yeah. Okay, so what is the legislative body? The board of supervisors is a legislative body, and then any commission or committee that is created by the formal action of the board. So HLAC was created by the board through an ordinance, so it is subject to the Brown Act. And let's go to the next slide. Advisory committees that are composed wholly of the members of the legislative body that are less than a quorum are not legislative bodies, such as in standing committees. That's why we can have some ad hoc subcommittees through HLAC that are not subject to the grant. Next slide. Okay, for this meeting, when a majority of the members are present at the same time and place to hear, discuss, deliberate, or take action on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the legislative body. This includes virtual meetings and it includes email. Be careful with replying to all on email. That's why usually we've not been sent out things to send them BPP, so not tempted to reply to all. What is not a meeting? Next slide. Conferences are similar gatherings, community forums, meetings of another legislative body, or purely social or ceremonial occasions are not considered a meeting. As long as the majority of the members do not discuss among themselves business that's within the subject matter jurisdiction of the legislative body. Many years ago, there was a lawsuit involving one of the special districts in town where some board members were at a barbecue and they did discuss business, and there was someone from the public who wanted to attend but was not allowed in. And so then there was a lawsuit about that, and the district is facing pretty substantial attorney's fees for that. So we just be careful on social occasions. That's right. Authorized meetings, there's regular meetings, which are held at the time and place set by the ordinance, resolution, and bylaws, and we have it in our bylaws. Held within the body's jurisdictional boundaries. And then there are special meetings that can be called by the chair or a majority of the members. And written notice has to be given to each member of the body, posted on the agency's website for the meeting 24 hours, and notice to the local newspaper. Next slide. Social media. The social media, these are fairly new. Need to be careful with social media that you're not using it to discuss topics that are within the subject matter of your body. And that includes comments or use of visual icons, even like thumbs up signals count. A member of the legislative body shall not respond directly to any communication on social media platform regarding a matter that's within the subject matter jurisdiction of the legislative body, that is made, posted, or shared by any other member of the legislative body. Next slide. So only business that's on the agenda may be discussed or acted upon with limited exceptions that I'll talk about in a minute. The agenda is posted at least 72 hours in advance, and each agenda item must be briefly described. The materials distributed to the body must be made available to the public without delay. So that's why I have something passed out here. We're in the back of the room. They're public records except for privileged documents, like attorney-client opinions that are given to them. So generally, as I said, you can't discuss things that are not on the posted agenda. But you can if the majority decides there's an emergency situation. If 2/3 of your body determined and need for immediate action is there, and then you came to the attention after the agenda was posted, that doesn't apply to staff knew about the need before the agenda was posted. And you may briefly respond to public comment, even though it's not on the agenda. You can make a brief announcement, ask a question, make a brief report on your own activities, or provide a reference for factual information. And you can also request that staff report back or place an item on a consent agenda. One thing you want to avoid is serial meetings. So if you can have these through the chain method, where one person contacts another, and then that person contacts another person, involving a quorum. So for HLAC, according to your bylaws, a quorum is 5. And then there's the hub and spoke method, where A or an immediate intermediary contacts member B and C, sharing information between members.
Next slide. County staff may communicate with members of the legislative body to answer questions, provide information. If the person does not communicate to members of the legislative body the comments or position of any other member of the legislative body. The public has several rights under the Brown Act. They have the right to attend meetings without registering their name or providing other information. There's an exception for if you're commenting through teleconferencing and the teleconferencing platform requires you to put your name, that's fine. You have a right to address the body on each item of business on the agenda, right to comment on any other matter of public interest, as long as the items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the body. Public has the right to criticize county policy. Public has the right to inspect their agendas and any other non-exempt writings made available to the majority of the members at the meeting. And the public has the right to report. Next slide. Meetings must be acceptable under the ADA. The agenda has to state how reasonable accommodations can be requested. And the agenda must be made available in alternative formats of request. Next slide. So closed session, there are several areas where closed sessions are permitted. I'm not aware of things like ever having a closed session. We'll go through all those. Next slide. Okay, so now we have 3 sets of teleconferencing rules. There's the traditional teleconferencing rules. There's the COVID emergency teleconferencing rules, which are just in place for this year. They expire January 1st, 2024. And then there's the new AB 2449 teleconferencing rules. And those must be taken by roll call for teleconference meetings. Next slide. So traditional teleconferencing rules, each location has to be identified in the agenda and the agenda posted at each location. And the public rights are protected at each location, including accessibility and at least a quorum of the members participating within the county. Next slide. Then there's the COVID emergency teleconferencing rules. And these, I made a couple changes from what you have in your packets, I think. So I'll highlight the changes. But they allow legislative bodies to conduct meetings via teleconference without adhering to include traditional rules, and most of them. If there's a declared state of emergency and the public health officer has recommended social distancing, or this new, the next one, I think you don't have anything. Meeting in person would present imminent risk to the health or safety of attendees. Right. The legislative body reconsiders or makes findings within every 30 days on the need to continue to meet remotely. The agency must provide notice and an opportunity for the public to participate remotely. And this was added, physical meeting location is not required. Roll call vote is still required. Okay, that's the new AB 2449 teleconferencing. This authorizes less than a majority to participate remotely under limited just cause and emergency circumstances. The quorum of the body still has to participate from a single physical location and the public. So this is something you could use if you're feeling sick, for example. The agency must provide a public option to participate remotely. Here's the definition of just cause. Means that child care or other caregiving of immediate family, a contagious illness, a need related to physical or mental disability, or travel on government business. The process is to notify the legislative body at the earliest possible opportunity, which can include at the start of the meeting, of the need to participate remotely for just cause, and you'd include a general description of the relevant circumstance. Emergency circumstances means a physical or family medical emergency
that prevents a member from attending in person. The process for that one is the member requests the legislative body to allow them to participate in the meeting remotely due to emergency circumstances, and then the legislative body takes action to approve their request. The request must be agendized with a general description of the circumstances, including personal medical information, if time allows.
Sorry, so that would just be, as soon as we find out that a member cannot attend in person, then we as staff would send out a revised agenda saying this person can participate from a remote location.
Right.
Okay. Perfect. So.
Yeah. So the rules for participating through remote teleconferencing is you have to participate both audio and visual technologies and not just over the phone. And then you have to disclose at the meeting whether any other individuals 18 years of age or older are present in that room. And the general nature of the conversation with the individual. The member may not use suggested cause provision for more than 2 meetings per calendar year. And then you can't use it for more than 3 consecutive months or above 20% of the regular meetings for the local agency. That works out to for HVAC 2 times per year. A little bit. And penalties, there's civil remedies, including injunctive, mandatory, or declaratory relief. The legal meetings may be enjoined by the court. Some actions, if not cured, may be declared void. And then the agency can be subject to having to pay attorneys to the other side. Normally, there would be an opportunity to correct the cure corrected for the Brown Act violation. As a do-over. So if that happens, then some of these other penalties don't kick in. And I think that's it. We end on the negative note. Any questions?
Okay, let's open up this question from commissioners. Yeah, Commissioner Nelson.
About the social media stuff, just to clarify, we can comment on, say, at landmark XYZ, but we cannot. But so another commissioner cannot comment on our comments, is that correct? And we can comment on a general public person's comment. Right, okay. So just don't comment on another commissioner's comment. Okay.
So four of us decide to go to lunch. Have at it, talk about an agenda. That's not a quorum, and it's okay.
You're right, okay.
And does that include the chain with on the emails and things like that? If I send the email to the chair and to my friend, 2 friends, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, that's okay, but if I go to 5, that's bad.
Correct.
So the magic number is 4. On
Right.
on collusion or whatever it is. Yeah.
How would that affect us? I mean, if we have a subcommittee, so we should only have 2 or 3 on a subcommittee, max 4.
Right, that's not more, but there's, not everyone is here, we have a vacancy, so it's probably better if you have fewer than 4, but 4 is allowed.
2 or 3.
So at this time, with 3 vacancies. That's, what are we, 11 minus 3? And we have 8 members. What's a quorum for 8?
It's still 5.
It's still 5.
So would that mean only 3 people are at the current moment instead of 4?
No, it's
Still 4.
the quorum's still 5.
Commissioner Duncan.
I did notice under the new ADR 2449, members participating through remote teleconferencing must participate through both audio and visual technology.
Right.
So, members of the public have to be able to see you speaking. You can't just be over the phone.
Right,
Okay, but a member of the public could be just over the phone.
that's correct.
So are we visual here?
Yes. Right, Frankie?
We are visual. See the camera.
Question on the COVID. It's on our agenda. Now, I did not go over the COVID. Is it just automatically on the agenda or do we need to vote on that every meeting?
I don't think the findings are on your agenda because we are meeting in person.
If we decide to go back to,
Right,
so then we have to do a vote on that.
right.
Okay.
If there's another declared state of emergency. Because it has to be a declared state of emergency, which is uprising of COVID, so we have to go back. That's, the health department has to say, we have to go back.
Yeah, I think that we still are under the public health emergency, but it may be ending at the end of this month.
Any other commissioner questions? Now's your time. So we don't get slapped on the wrist for more. I guess not. Thank you very much for doing this. We appreciate it. And that ends our meeting for today. Our next meeting will be March 13th, 2023 at 10 o'clock. And it will be in the Board of Hearings, the same room we're in today. Thank you very much.